So, while we're on this roller coaster ride, ooh. Because it's both, you need 73 and 63 in the cosmological crisis, because they hit highs on this operator right here. When I'm running the variable on the rungs, two types come off real quick in tech. Being 1, 2, 3 singlet state hydrogen numbers of the quantum operator. Well, let's just do this for a little bit. Is that what it is? I'm blue right now. Cover the big red dog and Tilde Moon. Whoever. I mean, you can tell by the shiny most time it's big. It would be a limiting factor under a tech that says, for us of the moment, they're going to think about numbers that have certain positions that have to be played in order to them to physically move something. Direct retail investor reduce their strongest overweight positions. Well, that's the point of tech. I went through with an XM. I own part of their shares. I did a quick evaluation. Tech lost a bunch of players, and so the tech market goes up. I mean, it would be trimming fat off of anything because it's thermodynamics and Maxwell's demon to, well, you may disagree with the tool I've used for autonomous programs, but if the result says to the differential that yes, an army unit could step in if they have an army, but given a differential of a militia and a time topology up down, comparatively down up or down up up in orientations of the first bit, because it started from that now sequence of events that go into what happens here. Might as well, in terms of a graph we're actually going to be able to use to do anything other than put $1 on this thing right here. I mean, this would do the same thing if I n1 half it to multivariable calculus M1 or M1, M2,
Hello,
Mn,
and
E0,
welcome to
E1,
Night Sky
E2.
News for July 2021
But that winds up being the answer.
with me, astrophysicist Dr. Becky Smethurst. This is the series where we chat about everything to look out for in the night sky in the coming months, and we recap all of the space news stories that happened in the past month. There's chapters if you want to skip ahead to any specific news story, and any scientific papers I mentioned will also be linked in the video description down below. So without any further ado, let's kick things off and start by looking up.
It's good statue, guys.
So from the 23rd to the 25th of July, which is this weekend, Friday to Sunday, if you're watching right after I posted this on a Thursday, this is going to be the ideal time to spot Jupiter and Saturn. And that's because the full moon is essentially going to be a great big bright beacon leading you right to it. Because it's a full moon, it's going to be quite close to the planets in the sky. It means that these will be visible essentially from sunset to sunrise. The entire night,
Doctor Strange is
supreme. So hopefully lots of opportunity for a clear spell at some point to be able to.
I love the Mach conversation of triangulation of an asteroid and a civilization that understands it and says certain rapid population you have to leave, certain timelines, cicada standards, and engineering of derivative and derivative T correlate to the Bernoulli's experiment in terms of the trajectory and the geodesics of everything. Not some things, not most things, everything.
So bright, essentially what's going to happen is that it's going to wash out.
You're going to say it's 63, they're going to say it's 64, otherwise you're both going to agree within the operator of what that system correlates to. And that could be schizophrenic, it could be manic, it could be the adjustment of renormalization, 63 to 83.
Much brighter of the two, it's much bigger, it's also closer to the sun as well, so it appears a lot brighter in the sky. That's on the left-hand side, and Saturn will be the fainter thing, so maybe a little bit.
You know how to use a Hadron Collider? It's probably a lot about the orientation of the sensors, Murphy law.
Yellowish hue, and because the full moon is so close to them, it should hopefully make picking these two things out a lot easier, especially if you're a newbie and you're not necessarily
still get back to the graph.
The second reason why around about now is a really good time to look for Jupiter and Saturn in the sky is because they're approaching what we call opposition. This is when a planet is in the completely opposite direction from the sun in the sky.
To where Jupiter might be in the Hadron Collider.
Between Jupiter and Saturn and the sun right now. Essentially, right, they're like perfectly lit for us to be able to see them.
The spectrum of Ks
and well lit. So essentially, Saturn will be at opposition on the 2nd of August, and Jupiter will be at opposition on the 19th of August. But, you know, the couple of weeks around that, they're still going to be incredibly bright on the sky, brighter than normal, which makes them much easier to spot. So if you can use the full moon trick this weekend to pick them out on the sky, so that later on, for the rest of the summer, you know what you're looking for, and you'll know that when you spot them in the sky, that's
I jump right into
Sagittarius,
the
and you can
Ask
look
for
at them
12.
closer to opposition.
12 neural net, we're going to make it work. It works hydrogen to it jumps set on autonomous and give it limits at least now. Wind Talker, and it becomes at least a little easier now to crack in the code and give me something to work with here. Trigonometry with that thing,
heading
not just
outside,
some tree
packing
and
up a
walking
midnight
around the
picnic,
village
braving
chasing
the cold,
snakes.
lying down on the grass, and seeing how many meteors that you can spot. Because usually in past years, the number of meteors per hour has been something like 60. That's like a meteor.
You're gonna have to learn to survive,
and it is known to have gotten up to about 150 meteors an hour at its peak as well. Now you won't necessarily see that many meteors because, you know, some of them will be a lot fainter, so you'll be able to spot them with the naked eye, and some of them will be much brighter, and you will definitely spot those. And some of them, you know, streak off over a different part of the sky that perhaps you weren't looking in as you were looking at the sky. So which direction should you look in to make sure you see the maximum amount of meteors? Well, all those meteors are going to look like they're streaming away from the constellation of Perseus. And that's because a comet called Swift-Tuttle has just left a cloud of debris on its orbit around the sun. And the Earth is going to pass through that cloud of debris on its way around the sun, and so all the meteors will look like they're coming from that patch of sky where the cloud of debris is. So because they're all streaking away from that patch of sky, you essentially have to look anywhere but the constellation of Perseus.
Well, I'm in Jupiter's corner taking the Kuiper belt.
Find Perseus in the northeast, just below the famous W shape of Cassiopeia. So essentially, facing south is the best thing to do. You'll probably know if you have like a south-facing garden or a south-facing window in your house, the brightest room in your house if it's south-facing. So essentially look in that direction. Look in the direction you would usually look in if you were going to sort of sunbathe in your garden. You should be fine. If you can't figure it out, no worries. Just lie flat
I want
on
to
the
see
grass
that
and
map.
look up, and
There would be a black hole in this
quadrant.
quadrant. In this
So in
quadrant,
the southern
it would look
hemisphere,
like
not to worry,
superposition.
you won't actually be able to see the
program.
constellation of Perseus because it isn't visible to you because it's only a northern hemisphere constellation. But essentially what that means is you just need to look north to see the meteors sort of streaking over the horizon towards you. And again, you should know if you have a north-facing garden. If you're in the southern hemisphere, that always baffles me to think of it like that. But again, if you can't figure out, just lie down flat, look up, and you should see the meteors streaking overhead. Now, the Perseid meteors are known for being really bright, so
close your eyes,
if
play
you've
game
not got a
chess.
particularly dark
Let's
sky,
face it, you're not
perhaps
Magnus, so don't play chess.
you'll still
That'd
be
the first thing you
able
did
to
wrong.
spot them. But if you can get away from light pollution to a dark sky, you'll be able to see the bright and the faint. There'll be lots more meteors
And
per hour
then, for a little while, every once in a while, Bones will test you, ready to pick the Fed
around from the 12th to the 13th of August, but you know, a week either side of that, you're going to get a great show of these meteors, especially because on the 8th of August is the new moon, right? So there'll be absolutely no moon all night, so a very dark sky. When we get to the peak on the 12th or the 13th, there'll be a toenail moon, so you might want to look out for that and then go meteor spotting as well. What I'm trying to say is essentially you've got a really large window of time to spot these, so you can plan within those 2 weeks or so, you know, figure out when is maybe your warmest, clearest night that you can, you know, maybe fancy staying up past midnight, popping a blanket down outside and, you know, just spending an hour or so with friends and family just, you know, trying to spot some meteors. That would be a great thing to do. Also, I know that a lot of people tend to go on holiday around, you know, the first couple of weeks of August as well. So if where you're staying has some, you know, sunbeds that people sunbathe on, also great for star bathing as well, right? They're great for lying down, looking up. You're not going to get a crick in your neck or anything like that. So if you can do that while you're on holiday,
how did they get the glass thing to wrap around this thing and
that. Alright, that's enough of looking up at the wonders of the night sky. Let's come back down to
how do you do those
what's
crazy
been happening
things,
in
you
space news.
space person?
I'm Pete Armale for Country Club Nissan. Are you driving a bucket of...
Alright, always start with the bad news, right? And the bad news this month is that the Hubble Space Telescope has been out of action for about 5 to 6
I'm building the forge,
weeks now,
Bones.
not taking
You need to work on
any
that.
astronomical
Get
observations.
the
So back on the
Gopher
13th
treasurer.
of
You know
June,
you can step into there.
the main
He's gonna come to me about the
computer
squeaky
on
if
board,
you don't
which
like your
controls,
bullshit.
you know, all
That's
of
how
the
we deal.
instruments and the scientific detectors, glitched and essentially went into safe mode and shut everything
I went
down.
hard.
Obviously,
Schizo, dual
big surprise
diagnosis,
to everyone on
derivative
the
over
ground,
derivative,
which
winding
cued
up, catching
essentially
a whole
this
bunch of
mass
spectrums,
scramble
options,
for
people
all
that
of the
eat,
people at Space
drink,
Telescope Science Institute
keep
in
all the
Baltimore that
multi-world
managed the telescope
circumstances
to
to an
try
index
and figure out
AUAX.
what went wrong
Start
and
to
what
tighten
was
those
going
things
on.
off
The
with
first
eating
thing they tried to do
habits,
was
systems,
reboot
gravity,
the
and
backup
different
computer,
gravity, but
but
gravity
that failed
nonetheless
with
is
the same
throwing down
error, it
888.
glitched and shut everything back down again into safe mode. That was a good thing though, because it meant that it wasn't the actual computer, the main computer
the
that was having the
63s,
problem,
you
it
come in
was
high on an
something
early
else,
test of some
which
stuff
without the
that
space
just
shuttle we can no
arbitrarily
longer
makes
get to
73.
the Hubble Space Telescope
A little
to
faster
service
on the
to
numbers,
replace the
stretches it
computer,
out a
for
little
example,
farther
if it
than
actually
what most
had
people
been
normally
a
could, or take
hardware
the
error with
conversation,
the
brick and
computer.
drag
They eventually
conjecture about
managed to trace the
astrology,
error back to something called
cosmetology,
the power control
quantum
unit, or the
chromio
PCU.
dynamics, or just
This
standard
essentially
quantum
makes sure that
dynamics
there's
to
a
a field.
steady 5 volts of electricity always being
ground law
flowed
hidden
to that main computer
All
so
X
that it
and
can
Y,
operate. Which is the
superposition
same
to
kind
each
of power
other,
that your phone
having a
needs as
standard
well, right?
model,
It draws
because
6
it doesn't know
volts
what
when
the
it's
output is. I
charging,
snapped a
which
picture
is
to
kind of mind-blowing to
GPT-3
think the Hubble
when
Space
the game
Telescope
theory
with
of
your phone
Mario
running off
banging
the
around
same
looks like
kind of
this, a
power.
LiDAR,
Now there's a
and
secondary
backing up
circuit
the
on this power
autonomous
control
car.
unit, this PCU, and its
That's what I
job is
need you to
essentially
do.
to trip if
And
anything
if it
goes wrong with
does,
that power supply.
then
So
when,
if it drops
and
below
or
5
nor
volts, or
flip-flops.
if it surges above 5 volts as well, it will trip and tell the computer shut down, go into safe mode, and cut off the power supply. So that's what the team at Space Telescope think has happened here. Either the voltage is too high, or this secondary circuit is just stuck.
And
in
usually
this trip
it would be
mode
too
and
hard
you
for
can't
somebody
get out
else
of
when they
it.
zap
So the
and
first
walk
thing
with
they
it.
tried to
It takes a
do
lot to
was
just
to reboot this
fucking
power control unit to see if they could get
walk
it back
into
online
Walmart.
and working again and delivering
What do you mean walking
a
to Walmart?
steady
It's like,
power
yeah,
supply.
power drone
Hello,
con
IT. Have
systems,
you tried
and
turning
just
it off
getting
and on
tasered.
again?
But unfortunately that failed. So the next plan is to try and boot up the backup power control unit
We got a whole
instead
director
and
of
see if we
information
can get
technology
things
way to
back
handle it,
up
don't
and
we?
running again and observing the sky. Now they were
I would
given the
argue
all
it could
clear
be more,
to
could be
start
less
that
on the Hubble
procedure
45. What it
yesterday,
is
as I'm calling
nevertheless
this,
a
which
Hubble
was the
45.
Thursday, the 15th of July. Today
Dark
is now
star
Friday,
on
the
this
16th of July, and there's been
Anton
no
talking
updates
about black
as of
holes
yet
around the
about
galaxy.
whether that has been successful.
A dark
It
star
should
with
take
areas
a
of
couple
100
of
black
days
holes
to
inside
go
here into this
through all the
target
procedure and the
range
steps
that
to do that. So we
Hubble
won't know for a
45
while.
that
So I guess we
63
just
and
hope
it's
that editing
73
Becky has some
rungs
good
on
news for us.
the ladder.
It's good news.
To a
It was
triangle
the
and-
next day, on Saturday the 17th of July, NASA announced that they had gotten the Hubble Space Telescope back online, and it's also now taking
What I can
beautiful
Andromeda
images
paradox
again.
is here.
Look
Say
at
the aliens are
these.
here.
Actually,
They're
oh
not
my
here at the
gosh.
same damn time in superposition
Yeah,
when I go to
that's
do
it.
math on
Let's see
Mars,
what
9.8 meters per second
galaxies
squared,
like
or
that.
how I have to
So
figure out the
not only
clickety
wonderful
ticks,
to see
learn
Hubble back,
Chinese
but it's
and
also
Russian,
wonderful to see,
figure this whole fucking thing out.
gorgeous pictures of galaxies.
Click,
I really
click,
hope
click.
that was good news.
Tell me
'cause
time
I
dollar.
tell you, I'm not prepared for the